Hello and welcome to part 27 of our OpenTTD series. In the last few episodes I've been creating this electric railway here, which is now complete, as you can tell by the fact there's actually things running on it. And in this part what I think would be best is to focus on the area that we've just covered. So kind of this area all around here, and just sort of build everything into the railway network we've just made. Because it's all well and good making railways, but it's about connecting the things around it as well, isn't it? So that's what we'll do. I've kind of noticed as well, just while I was loading up the map, that this Planville here is probably going to become quite important because it's pretty much the center of the map. So long-term planning is generally this is the idea as to how I see the series going. So we'll try and create some kind of mainline railway down the south coast, then connect that to the centre, so then that's that spur done, and then we'll do an east coast railway up here and connect that to the centre from the top corner, and then a northern railway. So we'll basically have an edge kind of railway that goes around the outside of this map and then across in the middle. Once we get to doing that, what we'll do is actually kind of redesign what routes the existing tracks are on. So for instance, the expresses that currently run through Prodding Pool Falls up here, they'll probably be incorporated into another route. There's no point running two trains that are doing the same route alongside each other, as it just kind of serves to congest the railways. So that's what we'll be looking at. What I've noticed in this area is that we have this industry, this iron ore factory, and this here, and this power station, which all would benefit from a connection somewhere. Now we did make a steel mill station up here, but rip in peace, the steel mill's actually gone. So what we'll do is we'll get rid of that and go in search of another steel mill we could potentially have. Means we could also get rid of that and make this bridge here a lot shorter. So let's do that. Now, what we need to do is look for a steel mill, something that's connected to our network preferably. So let's make the map nice and big. Look for steel mills, so there's only 8 in the map. Wow, none of them's really close to one we've already built. They're all kind of around the south coast, aren't they? Apart from this one here. So in Kenwood. That's a little bit further away than I was hoping from the network. So what we'll do is we'll probably leave that for now. Forest wise, let's see. I know there's a sawmill we've already built onto down there. Yes, around here. So we can't really get it to there. There's also a sawmill very close to it by the looks of it. Oh no. There's 3 up here. There's one there, isn't there? Yeah, we built the sawmill just here. We could actually have a wood train which goes up to that sawmill. That would be a good move, wouldn't it? So let's try and do that. Whereabouts could we build this freight station though? Because there isn't a lot of room, unless here it sort of came around, and yeah, so we could maybe have kind of a branch there. These would all have to change signals. Just do that. These would then have to become path signals too. If we could maybe do this. So it comes up here and then around to a platform. And yes, I'm going to create it electrified, because pretty much all the railway up to there is electric anyway, so we could benefit from that. Where's our... There we go. So let's have a wood loading station, make it 7 tiles long, and have some buffers on the end. And what I'll do as well, because I've actually started building something, I'll raise the question of the day, which is from Vanquish First, in which he asks, when and how did I find OpenTTD? Which is actually quite a good question, because it's something I'm interested in for all of yourselves as well, because, well, as I'll explain in the answer. And he also asks why I still play it. And yeah, it's quite interesting that a game which has been around for so long is still actually played, and we'll come on to it. But yeah, I mean, I started playing when I was actually, like, I think it must have been about 10 years old. I've no idea how, or why specifically. There wasn't really a why to it. It was more a case of back then, because it was, you know, before the internet, the dark ages of mankind. I had only a family computer. My dad just seemed to have the game. I don't know how, where, or why he bought it. He probably saw it on offer somewhere, knowing my dad. So he's probably gone into a shop, seen it cheap, and thought, I'll have that. And basically picked it up, and yeah, I started playing it. I remember because the only map that I had any interest in playing, because I'm trying to remember back, and I can't remember much from the original version of the game, but I seem to remember there wasn't World Generation, and I can remember playing only a single map, which was let me just pick a train. Sorry, let's have a look. Express passenger. I want something electric, because it's going to have to be one of these, isn't it? Class 92 overhead. Oh, that'll do. Yeah, so I can remember playing a map which was the southwest of England. I remember Bournemouth being on the map, Tewkesbury, I think Exeter was, Gloucester. But I can remember just playing that over and over again. My dad used to play it as well, and it's a case of, well, I kind of played it a bit more than he did. It was more just something he went and had a fiddle on, really. But yeah, it was interesting that I have no idea why that kind of game sort of was there, and it's just kind of turned into what it's turned into. So it's quite interesting. But I played it as a kid. I didn't really, I kind of forgot about it for a few years, and then with the advent of the internet and everything, I was like, oh, I remember that game. I'll go play that again. So I did. Found obviously OpenTTD, sort of just installed it and played it as I used to play it, and then I kind of realised that, oh, okay, there's sort of a bit more of a community around it. But that was only kind of later on. That was when I started making the videos, to be honest. So the thing is that I've kind of played the game how I'm building things now, which is pseudo-realistic. I had my own, before I kind of found the community, and I still don't really participate in the community a great deal, because I'm quite set in how I played it growing up, because I just kind of see it as, well, I just carry on what I'm doing, what I've always done. But it is interesting because obviously I come into this community with a case of like, right, okay, so I do this, and I've kind of, everything I do I've sort of taught myself, and now I'm kind of meeting people and seeing different ways of doing things that I've always done that are easier, and that's quite interesting in a way. So I think I've changed quite a few of the things that I do for the better, really, because I've actually been able to sort of learn off other people, and I guess that's the joys of the internet, isn't it? So yeah, that's kind of how. There's not really much of an answer, but it was just kind of there at home, and I just you know, started playing it. What I'm going to deter away from the conversation for a second, just to wonder what my next step would be. Now, what I'd like to do with the transport in the area is have bus routes which link into the stations, because they should be the kind of interchange points, really, of the routes. So Wudhattan Ridge, I'd like to have a bus route which maybe comes through this section, and then up here connecting a few of these other little villages together. Let's have a look. Just trying to work out how to do it. What we should probably do is have a bus route which comes from Proddingpool Falls to Runtown, up here, connects this little village to this station, and then comes around the coast and then ends up in Cunley Market. And then we'll have another bus route which goes this kind of direction. Okay. But yeah, I remember lending the game to a friend, actually, because it was on CD. It was like I can remember it being like a glossy sort of silver CD cover. And I'm going to redesign the station too, I think. But yeah, I can remember lending it to a friend around the corner from where he used to live, and I can remember that he borrowed it for about a week or two. And then I asked, okay, so, you know, what do you think of the game and stuff? And he's like, yeah, it's really cool. Like, let me show you what I've done. I was like, okay. And all he'd been doing for the time that he'd had it is basically going into maps and just trying to clear everything, destroy everything, and just flatten the entire world, like level everything, like fill in the sea and just have everything. And he was like, look, I've done this. It was just literally a blank flat world. I was like, oh, okay. It was just like, right, point may be missed, but I mean, yeah, I could never really understand. But that kind of highlights, I guess, that a lot of games, even back then, it's kind of open to your interpretation as to how you actually get your enjoyment out of the game, isn't it? And in a lot of respects, I always find that those kind of games are more engaging, really, because you're not just blindly following orders. You've actually got to think about what you think about what you're doing. And I mean, if a game can make you think as well, and it can kind of build up your development as to how you. I mean, if you look at the things that a game like this does, so I mean, generally, if you kind of take yourself back from what you're actually doing and look at, the processes you're taking, it's problem solving, isn't it? It's understanding and developing something. It's knowing that, right, well, you build something here, and because you build that, as a consequence, you have other effects, and from there you have to negate those effects, and it becomes quite complex, really. And I think that coming to terms with that and having a way to deal with those kind of problems is never a bad thing, is it? So let's have a look. I'll probably start building this line. I'm going to start at Prodding Pool Falls and go up. First of all, though, I'm going to attempt to build a extension to that bus terminal. Okay, so there's a depot there. What I'll do is get rid of that. Yeah, that's already there. And then what we'll do is, let's see the coverage area. So around here, we could have another station. Station, stop, whatever. And then we'll have it come down here. Let's just level this out. And start there. Town heights. And that's probably close enough to the other station, so that's okay. In fact, I'll just move that down one. Extend that. And then that coverage area ends there, so that'll be the perfect place for a second one. And we could have a stop here. Yeah, why not? Let's have a bridge. Ah, let's have a bridge over there. Here we go. I suppose the other part of the question as well is why I still play it. And I guess it's not something that anyone sort of thinks about directly. So you don't play a game thinking, well, I'm going to play this game because of this. I mean, I guess in some cases you do, but I don't know, it's just kind of, no matter what I've done or what I've played, I've always sort of come back to games like this. OpenTTD is one of a few, but I tend to find that some games I always sort of go back to because I don't know why. I mean, like, for OpenTTD, it's just a case of it's very relaxed, and it's it falls into a category of games that I tend to play where it's sort of, it can take your attention and you can invest quite a lot of time into it, but also you can leave it to do its own thing and you don't have to give it your full attention. So I've got I have two monitors on my computer, and quite a lot of time I'll have OpenTTD open, but I'll be doing something else as well. And it's nice to be able to have that kind of option, so you don't have to give the game your full attention. You can be doing other things. And the only game that I've played since this, which kind of offers that sort of relaxed gameplay almost, is Cities Skylines. It's one of the first games I've played in a long time where on a second monitor, if you have a second monitor plugged into your computer, you can pretty much just use the other monitor in on that. You won't quit out the game or have any interference as to what's actually happening, which is very rare. And thankfully, it's like that because it does make it a lot easier. So Cities Skylines is another one where I'll be doing something else on the monitor, usually replying to like YouTube comments and things, and the game just sort of plays by itself on the other screen as I'm doing what I'm doing. So that's probably why one of the reasons I'm still playing it. But it's, I guess the GRFs, the new, the mods and things, they give quite a bit more gameplay to what there was originally when I first started playing. Oof, sorry, just went for a coffee and it's extremely cold. But yeah, they offer something a bit different. So I would have never been able to play some of these games with the complexity that you'd have from the 1990s. Well, I'm going to say 1990s, but I think it may have been a bit later. But the 90s version of the game. You know, that's something to be heralded, really. So I'll just explain what I'm doing for a second. I'm just going to create this bus route up the coast. And we'll start this off. Yeah, I mean, there was a certain charm to some 1990s games. It wasn't about kind of just trying to look big and brash to get money. It was when games were a somewhat new form of media. I mean, obviously now gaming's very, very mainstream. You can look at it any which way, but it's a mainstream form of media. And that's partly down to the fact that it generates so much money. It was just inevitable that at some point, you know, your larger companies would latch on to the fact that, hey, there's this enormous market for for video games, and you know, thus your big cats come rolling in. But let's just build a little interchange here. But it's kind of changed how games are made and what constitutes a good game. I mean, you had to stand out around the time that OpenTTD was made. I mean, I guess OpenTTD did that in itself because it's a very modest game, I guess. It's not a big budget game. It's just a guy who has tried to make something with a bit of addictive gameplay, and it's, you know, it's fun to play. Very similar to Roller Coaster Tycoon, obviously by the same person, Mr. Chris Sawyer. But games now seem to be very corporate almost. So big budget, you've got to stand out, you have to have this and that, and it's not really about the gameplay anymore. It's about what decisions can be made to differentiate one game from another. And the problem is that every game that comes out is pretty much the same. And I know that it's a very outlandish statement to kind of categorize everything as the same, but I can't remember that there's only a few games as of recent that have kind of made me think, oh wow, that, you know, that makes me want to play that game. It's very rare that something's different. The last game that I'm gonna say addicted to will be Cities Skylines. I mean, I played tons of hours with that very quickly, but that's because it was a refined version of, I guess, a game which sort of suits my style of play. It's a very good strategy game, so it's maybe a bit of an unfair example. I think the only other game recently, and it may be quite hypocritical of me to say this after what I've just been saying, is Doom. Doom does look quite interesting, but then again, that is it's generally a case of, because it doesn't claim to be anything more than its main objective of any game, which is, okay, if you buy this, you can shoot things. You can just shoot, you know, you can kill things, and that's it. It doesn't try to be high art or pretentious or anything. It just says, yep, this is a game where you kill things, and it just focuses on that one objective. And maybe that's why it's quite an appealing game, because there's no other kind of bullshit around it. You just go into a game, you know, right, I'm here to shoot things, and it just tries to make that fun, opposed to a game which tries to be high arty, or, oh, it's about the story, and we have this depth, we have this serious, in-depth drama to our game, and it's like, yeah, but all that's subjective. You know, I'm going to break away again just to kind of say that, yeah, what I've done is in Conley Market, because it's a bit of a big city and there's 2 stations in there, I'm going to put a bus route on within the city which just links these 2 stations together. Whoa, bit of a rave show. That just means that passengers will be able to connect to the other line by using the bus route. I just thought I'd explain myself. But yeah, so Doom focuses on its main objective, and maybe that's why it's a little bit appealing. Whereas you find other games, I don't know, there's a lot of generic games out there. There's a lot of games that you look at and go, well, that's just X with X. Dead Island is the first thing that comes to mind. Now, I'm not quite sure why, but to me that was just, it's Left 4 Dead, but open world. And I've played it for a bit, and it's kind of just, it's a very generic game. Obviously Call of Duty is going to come into this, but I guess Call of Duty is a bit of an exception, because it kind of, it's I was going to say it's a defining game. I guess Call of Duty 4 was sort of the game which made modern shooters what they are, and other modern shooters kind of took a lot from that. It created that generic genre of FPS games. So in itself, it'd be a bit hypocritical to say, well, that's kind of copying because it's sticking to a formula that works well, which I understand, but it is a generic concept, isn't it? You know, but I guess you know what you're getting with a Call of Duty game. You know that it's just right. It's going to be cheesy. You're going to get a lot of screaming kids, and you're going to get a lot of people who will try very hard, but you get to shoot people. And with regards to a multiplayer game that's online, it isn't that bad. It plays quite well. The controls are pretty fluent, and you know, I didn't really, I pretty much hated Call of Duty, and I still don't really like it, but I pretty much hated Call of Duty after the first Modern Warfare, because I played that to death on the Xbox, as I think everybody who owned an Xbox 360 did. And basically with Modern Warfare 2, when Modern Warfare 2 came out, I was very much a PC gamer, and there was the whole dedicated servers being removed thing, and I kind of went off from there. Call of Duty isn't a game that's for me, but I can appreciate why people like Call of Duty, because you know what you get. They keep to the same kind of formula, and you know, it has the right kind of consistency from game to game. It's not, I wouldn't call it a hardcore game though. A lot of people, the amount of people I've had talk to us going, yes, I'm a gamer. You know, people at work say, I'm definitely a gamer, me, it's all I do. Oh, I love games, and I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. You know, what do you play? Call of Duty, FIFA. And it's like, okay, it's very difficult because it's like, well, yeah, that is gaming. Technically, you are gaming, but is playing FIFA and just Call of Duty and things, it's a very kind of, it's very difficult to describe what that falls under. Because a lot of people, like ourselves, I'm sure a lot of people watching this video from the background we have would say, well, that's not really a gamer. It's just, that's a very mainstream kind of person. It's someone who, you know, just buys them in shops and isn't really part of gaming as an actual genre, as a background, as a culture. But then again, how can you kind of argue that it isn't? And I don't get me wrong, I'd be part of the people arguing that it isn't part. You know, it's not really part of the gaming culture, but they are games. It's kind of like saying, well, you know, oh, I'm a gamer. I play, you know, games on my phone. It's like, well, what? How can that fall into the same kind of category as multi-million-pound sort of ventures and things? I think that to be a gamer itself, you've got to kind of be interested in the actual, you know, progression of the industry in itself and how games are made and what they kind of aim to accomplish, opposed to just buying things which are made as a mass marketable product. I think there's a very big difference. You can be someone who enjoys games, but to be a gamer, to enjoy the gaming genre, is something a bit different. But wow, okay, I'm going to kind of get off that tangent. I've created that bus route here, and that one's auto-filling. So what would be best doing next is creating a second bus route which runs the opposite way. And there are a lot of big towns around this area. We should probably have one that starts in Dongfing Field, or maybe here. Nah. Which towns have got a lot? Plenty, maybe. Let's have a look. Where do these want to go? Via Somborn Cross. Where are they heading? To any station. 1,600 to... So we wouldn't really accomplish a great deal, would we? Nah. We'll start in Dongfing Field. So we'll go from here to the station. We'll extend this bus stop. And from there, have a northern stop. And come this way. So we'll have a stop in Manford. And then next for the station in the centre, and then we'll go this way. So one there for that village. And we'll just connect a few of these up. We're going to have them as quite sparse services because I am cautious that we're making a lot of cities grow very quickly, and I want to kind of try and curb excessive growing. So we'll put on the minimum that we can pretty much get away with. I'm going to remove that. I don't like how many roads there are around here. Let's move that like so. And then, is there a depot in this city? I can't see one, so we'll make one. But there's a few other games that I kind of find myself going back to. The games that I tend to find, I always return to. OpenTTD is one. It's just something I've done on and off for quite a while. Some maps I've been on for years, and then I've kind of lost them only because I've sort of migrated PC. I really should start backing them up. Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 and 1, but mainly 2, tends to be one that I kind of go back to. Team Fortress 2, I kind of go, with all these I go in phases, I go in and out of phases of playing them, and then I kind of become sort of focused on one game, but it tends to be those. It's never really new games that sort of appeal to me. The last one is pretty much Cities, but that, although it's a new game, I can't really say that it's a new game that I've kind of become attached to. Because before that, I used to play SimCity 3000 quite a lot, and the genre itself of a city building game is, you know, something that isn't new. So, oh dear. I'm going to extend this bus station, because that is Spaghetti Junction right there. Get out the way, bus! Get out of the way! Oh man. What is going on? Let's put that there. Sugar. I want to just edit this tile, please. Move your ass. Not to mention that's going to fuck up its timetabling. I'll just remove that manually. That will not take 344 ticks. It will take 250. And even that's pushing it. Just make sure I've done that right. Yes, okay. So, I'll let that run. But yeah, I tend to go back to those games, and maybe that's testament to how they were made. They were games that focused on gameplay, because 10 years ago you couldn't focus on graphics because that was your limitation. Nowadays, graphics seem to be somewhat of a requirement for games, but I just don't see how it changes a game. Maybe to some people it increases immersion. I kind of get that, but I can't understand why you would buy a game for its graphics. A game is supposed to be something that, in its very definition, challenges you. And graphics don't really contribute to that. It can contribute to immersion, but it's not a reason I'd buy a game. And pretty much every game I play, apart from Cities, is something which pretty much is the opposite of focusing on graphics. It's something which by itself has a feature of a graphic-less environment, as you're watching right now, with this bus, which is literally comprised of about 15 different pixels. And obviously the other example is Minecraft, which I refuse to talk about on YouTube, because it may regress my puberty. So that's buses doing its route. This one must be completed now. So let's have a look. And thank you so much to whoever it was. And there were 2 people that posted the tip about holding down control, because that's a massive time saver. How long should it wait? I'm going to say 350 ticks as an average, and then in the depot for 1,500, which is 10% of its entire. Oh no, it's not. It's 2,000. 2,200, which is 10% of its entire route. And then what we'll do is we'll call this one we'll call it Wudhattan. Think of a number. I'm going to bash 645, number 1. So that's the 645. And what we'll do is control, and on this entire route, which is this long, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 7 buses. Whoa! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the 7th one that's running. Okie dokie. So we'll just set these off. And then this one is on its merry way, isn't it? Oh, it's finished. Aha! And it's very, very early. Let's have a look. 250 there. There we go. It was that one I needed to change. So 350 again. 350 and then 1,500. And this one can be called Wudhattan 0.10. I didn't even mean to put one then. Yes, I'd just like a day rider for the 0.10, please. There are so many bus routes in my city, we've have to start using decimals. That would be quite a good way to actually do different variations of the same bus route. Oh, it's the 192.6. Man. We were waiting for the bus the other day, and Nikki kind of, like, my partner, very aptly pointed out that the bus routes in our area are all named after IP addresses, which I'm not sure is coincidence or not, or whether they kind of gave the job of naming the bus routes to the guy who actually did IT for the company. I have no idea, but we have the 192.168, and there isn't a 0 or a 1 bus route, but yeah, we can't really do anything else, can you? Right, so let's release these two. So that's Dongfinger Fields Depot, and then we'll release another one from there. And then once these are released, it's pretty much everything done, isn't it? I want to check to see whether these are late or early on arrival. 113 ticks. So let's remove this down to about 150. And pretty much there we go. So I'll just kind of conclude as we're releasing these buses. So in this part, we've actually created another freight route, which I know is extremely rare for myself. I'm quite proud of that. I'll put that down as an achievement. We've created 2 bus routes which link up a few villages around the area to the newly created electrified line, which in itself is designed to relieve a bit of congestion along this ridiculously busy diesel route, which we should definitely look into at some point. This area does need redesigning pretty much. In the next part, what I'll probably do is, well, I'm not really sure where else to go, to be honest, but we should probably start examining this route down here. So we need to start looking at our long-term plan for the map, which will be to basically create that sort of square and cross network. And looking at the bottom route would probably be the best next step, as Proningpool Falls is a pretty important station. So if we actually check, hang on, why is that one not going? What's your problem? Oh, shit. It's the first one, and that one needs to go there then. Okay. Because, yeah, let's have a look at our population statistics. Suntwood is the biggest, and then Drinley, and then Proningpool Falls. So, yeah, we'll be looking at this southern route here to see what we can kind of accomplish, where we can go with that. But, yeah, that's been pretty much it for this part. Thank you for watching. Hopefully I see you again soon. And yeah, we'll be building again shortly.